We want to take a look at becoming our own nation. Alberta, a land of prosperity and opportunity. We have everything we need to have a nation.
Taking steps to better protect ourselves.
Alberta just shocked Canada by announcing its intent to carve its own path as an independent country. Tired of footing the bill for other provinces while Ottawa ignores its demands, Danielle Smith's 6-month ultimatum expired unanswered.
They want this lady and Alberta to just sit down and shut up. Well, here's my response to that. I will not be silent.
With citizen petitions soaring and polls climbing, Alberta's independence push is no longer hypothetical.
This is the right way for us to make sure that our Constitution is honored. We are equal orders of government.
You know, people used to laugh whenever the idea of Alberta breaking away came up. They'd roll their eyes and say, "Oh sure, another cowboy fantasy." But let's be honest, this thing has momentum, real momentum. And a lot of that has to do with Danielle Smith stepping in and saying what a chunk of Albertans have been screaming for decades. Add in groups like Wexit and the Alberta Prosperity Project, and suddenly, the wild idea of independence isn't sounding so wild at all.
You know what else we should do? Have our own oil refineries. We should start the project and we should finish the project right within our borders.
And here's why. Equalization payments. Yep, that cursed word that makes Albertans grit their teeth. Billions go out of Alberta's pocket every single year and flow into Ottawa's happy little redistribution scheme. But what comes back? Practically crumbs. It's like you pay for the whole dinner, the appetizers, the drinks, the tip, and then you're told, sorry, no leftovers for you. That's the resentment that has been fueling this movement for years, and now it's exploding.
We have all the agriculture, we've got the lumber, we have everything here in Alberta, which is why the globalists want us.
And now it's exploding. Danielle Smith summed it up perfectly in her now famous line, "I will not be silent. Alberta will not be silent." And honestly, that's the exact mood in the province right now. People are fed up with being told to sit down, shut up, and hand over the cash. They want their province respected, and for once, they're not whispering about it. They're yelling.
And if the federal government wants to come after us and try to disallow our laws, that will be up to them.
And the numbers don't lie. Poll after poll is showing this isn't some tiny group waving cowboy hats in protest. Right now, about 36% of Albertans overall say they support independence or at least sovereignty inside Canada. But here's the kicker. In certain voter groups, it's 65%. 65%. That's no longer a fringe stat you can bury in the back of a report. That's nearly 2/3 of a population base that's screaming, "Enough already." If you're Ottawa, that's not just smoke, that's a 4-alarm fire.
All those things that are federal jurisdiction. So people are really now putting their heads to that and trying to figure out if we're going to have a nation, what kind of nation are we going to have?
And the timing couldn't be worse for Ottawa either, because Danielle Smith basically handed them a ticking time bomb back in March 2025. She gave them 6 months, a clear ultimatum. Either you deliver on Alberta's demands, or you're staring down a national unity crisis. That deadline? October 1st, 2025. Guess what's hanging over everyone's head now? 12 very unmet demands.
There's a new word, prosperity.
Prosperity, I like it, that's good.
Alberta, a land of prosperity and opportunity. We have everything we need to have a nation.
But before we get to those demands, let's talk about the breaking point, Danielle Smith's independence clarification. This is where things got messy, and the critics had a field day. See, at first, Smith played it safe. She said her government, the UCP, would not be the ones to stick independence on the ballot. Nope, that would be left to citizen-led petitions. Basically, you get the signatures, we'll respect it. Some people hated that answer, others thought it was strategic. Either way, it left the door wide open.
So you know what I can smell with this nose? Communism.
Yeah.
And you know what's in Ottawa?
Probably smells a lot down there.
It smells a lot of communism.
And then came the Alberta Prosperity Project flexing their muscle, saying they've got hundreds of thousands of sign-ups pushing for a referendum. That's not a joke number, that's serious. Suddenly, Smith's careful positioning didn't look like cautious leadership, it looked like hedging her bets. Then came the Alberta Next panel on April 28th. That's when she doubled down and said her priority was sovereignty within Canada, not flat-out separation. But here's the catch. If the citizen petition hits the signature threshold, then boom, it goes to a referendum vote. End of story. She can't block it, she can't hide from it, she can't pretend it doesn't exist. The people push, and she has to move.
They've been playing this game with us for years. They pass laws that are unconstitutional and illegal, and then they make us go for years and years and years to get a court decision on them. Well, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to pass laws, and if they think they're illegal, they can...
And here's where it gets even spicier. Canada's constitution has no exit clause. None. Zip. Unlike Brexit, where the UK could point to Article 50 and say, see, there's the door, Canada never even imagined a province would want to leave. So if Alberta ever votes yes, you're talking about decade-long negotiations from scratch. Borders, debt, trade, passports, pensions, every single thing would have to be hammered out. It would be the ugliest divorce in Canadian history, and Ottawa knows it. Meanwhile, analysts are warning about vote splitting. If Smith keeps dancing around independence, pro-independence voters might just jump ship to other parties, carving up the Conservative vote and reshaping Alberta's entire political map.
We will not be pushed around and called traitors for merely having the courage to actually do something about our nation's and province's predicament.
Imagine Smith losing power not because Albertans hated her policies, but because she wasn't independent enough. That's the kind of irony you couldn't script better if you tried. And now we circle back to those 12 demands, the ultimatum that Ottawa is pretending doesn't exist. Back in March 2025, Smith looked straight at Mark Carney's shiny new government and said, "You've got 6 months to deliver, or this whole country's in crisis." Carney probably smirked, shrugged, and went back to his meetings. But now September's over, October 1st is staring everyone in the face, and none, let me repeat, none of those 12 demands have been met.
And what does Team Carney want me to do? They want me to abandon my post, remain in Alberta, and do absolutely nothing to defend our province.
And these weren't small asks either. We're talking repeal Bill C-69, the one that Albertans despise because it basically strangles new energy projects. Scrap the BC tanker ban, which kills Alberta's ability to get oil to markets. Kill the oil and gas emissions cap. Reverse the ridiculous single-use plastics ban. End the net zero car mandate that feels like it was written in a Toronto coffee shop. Hand carbon tax oversight back to the provinces where it belongs. Guarantee export corridors in all directions so Alberta's resources can actually move. No more export restrictions on Alberta oil and gas. End subsidies from Alberta's wallet to other provinces. And, just to twist the knife, fix Ottawa's mismanagement of Jasper and Banff National Parks.
Why are you waiting on citizen-led initiatives? Why aren't you just moving forward? Albertans want to leave. Now's the time.
Every single one of those points is still sitting on the table, untouched, ignored. And if Smith doesn't show teeth on October 1st, if she blinks for even a second, the entire ultimatum looks like a bluff. You don't threaten a national unity crisis and then quietly tiptoe away. If she caves, it'll shred her credibility, not just in Ottawa, but with Albertans who are already looking at her sideways. And here's the real kicker. Alberta isn't bluffing when it comes to leverage. This isn't a small province shaking its fist for attention. Alberta's GDP contribution is the largest of any province in Canada. It's the engine that makes the entire country run. If you look at it like a poker game, Danielle Smith is holding a royal flush. Meanwhile, Ottawa, they're holding a lousy pair of twos. The problem is, if Smith doesn't slam those cards on the table by October 1st, it doesn't matter how good her hand is. Everyone at the table will assume she's bluffing, and the whole province pays the price.
People are frustrated. They're frustrated with the state of the relationship with Ottawa. They're frustrated with decades-long grievances that they haven't felt they've been able to air.
So let's cut straight to the heart of it. What would independence actually mean for Alberta? Let's start with the one thing everybody knows Alberta for: oil. This isn't just some random resource. Alberta has the third largest oil reserves in the entire world. Only Saudi Arabia and Venezuela beat it. Wrap your head around that. A province in Canada has more buried wealth than most entire countries. And on top of that, Alberta produces more oil than any other Canadian province. So when people say Alberta couldn't stand on its own, I can't help but laugh. This place is sitting on a gold mine, except it's black gold, and Ottawa's been the one cashing out most of the time.
How has Canada lost their way? How has Canada lost their way that makes you think you got to join
I
it?
think part of why it is that people in Alberta are fed up with being governed by idiotic politicians from Quebec and Ontario that do not understand our province and do not understand that culturally.
Independence means keeping billions at home instead of watching them vanish through equalization payments. That's like finally locking the door when your freeloading neighbor keeps sneaking into your fridge every night. The money Alberta sends out every year could stay right where it belongs, inside Alberta. But here comes the catch. All those federal transfers that fund programs like the Canada Pension Plan, unemployment insurance, health transfers, and old age security? Gone. Poof. Alberta would need to create its own versions of every single one of them. Imagine trying to build a pension plan, unemployment safety net, healthcare funding, and retirement security from scratch. That's not just a weekend project, that's a monster task.
Holy smokes, man. Eastern Canada is just reckless in how they're treating the West.
And then there's trade. Right now, Alberta trades with the rest of Canada as if it's just one big family. No customs, no tariffs, no border checks. Trucks roll in and out, workers move freely, and nobody thinks twice about it. But independence means that suddenly changes. Tariffs, customs checks, border delays, all the fun stuff that grinds business to a halt. Oil shipments could get slowed down, costs could go up, and Alberta businesses that depend on Canadian customers might take the hit first. And we can't forget the United States. That's Alberta's biggest oil customer, the giant on the other side of the border. If Alberta becomes independent, Washington isn't going to send a fruit basket and a congratulations card. No, they're going to demand favorable terms. New energy deals, new pipeline rules, new environmental promises. The US would squeeze every drop it could to get the best deal possible. And Alberta would have to play ball, because without access to that market, independence doesn't mean much.
The West has been abused since it wanted in. The West has been taken for granted.
Let's start with the Yukon. The projections aren't sugar-coated either. A messy separation could scare off investment, raise costs, and trigger job losses in the short term. Businesses don't like uncertainty, and nothing screams uncertain like a province turning itself into a brand new country. People might leave, companies might stall, and costs could spike. Sure, the long-term picture might look brighter if Alberta uses independence to cut red tape, slash taxes, and run a leaner system. But the road getting there would feel like driving on nails with no spare tire.
It is just a bottom line, and you can't keep on siphoning off Alberta because we have a different culture here at the same time as demonizing us for what we do. So we're trying to change the conversation in the country, and I think we're having a little bit of success.
And that's just the economy. Let's talk about the complications that come next. Defense, Indigenous rights, and identity. Right now, Alberta enjoys the cover of the Canadian Armed Forces. But if it leaves, that's gone. The choice? Either build an armed force from scratch or pay Canada to defend the borders like some kind of contract security service. Neither is simple, neither is cheap. Policing is another piece of the puzzle. Alberta has already started phasing out the RCMP, trying to build its own provincial force. Independence would slam the accelerator on that plan. But creating a full policing system while also managing independence negotiations? That's like juggling knives while riding a unicycle.
Representative appointed by President Trump to explore the benefits of either Alberta becoming an independent sovereign nation with economic union to the United States, becoming a U.S. territory, or becoming or pursuing full statehood.
Then you hit the biggest landmine of them all, Indigenous treaties. These treaties were signed with Canada, not Alberta. So if Alberta leaves, what happens? Do First Nations stay aligned with Ottawa? Do they negotiate their own independence inside Alberta's borders? That's not just a legal headache, that's a full-blown constitutional migraine. You can't bulldoze over it, and you can't ignore it either. Yeah, it's gone. Polls show that over 40% of Saskatchewanians are already ready to vote leave. That's not a fringe. That's almost half the province, and the identity crisis doesn't stop there. What about citizenship? Do Albertans get dual citizenship? Do Canadians living in Alberta suddenly become foreign nationals overnight? Imagine families split by a border that didn't exist yesterday. Would you need a visa to visit your cousins in BC? Would Albertans living in Ontario suddenly be treated as outsiders? It sounds absurd, but those are the real questions that would need answers.
The conversations that we have tonight and throughout the Alberta Next engagement process will help to shape the future of our province.
Go ahead, sir.
The tally of project losses? Over $500 billion gone. Keystone XL alone left Alberta holding a $1.3 billion loss. And hovering over all of this is the cultural divide. Because let's be real, not every Albertan is waving a separation flag. Some people are still loyal to Canada. They might hate Ottawa's policies, but they're not ready to cut the cord. Others see independence as pure survival. No referendum has ever achieved a full majority for separation. But the anger that keeps this idea alive isn't going anywhere. That divide means even within Alberta, the fight wouldn't stop the day after independence was declared. Which brings us to the final point, Canada's warning. Danielle Smith keeps saying diplomacy is her goal, but her vow that "I will not be silent, Alberta will not be silent," turned the volume way up. If Ottawa shrugs off Alberta's October 1st deadline, this whole movement could blow past the point of no return. That's not fear-mongering, that's reality. Yes, independence would be messy. Years of negotiations, endless economic risks, legal challenges from Indigenous nations, it would all pile up. But Alberta's resource wealth makes independence at least a plausible path. That's the wild card in all of this.